Hello, I'm Dan Bruch, 1421 Harlan Lane. The only question I had is on that number 2 and 3 in reference to the rec department. Is that kind of clarified that they have some kind of a choice in the usage of the courts prior to the other groups, 4 and 5?
I think needs clarification. All those classes talked about fee schedule. They didn't talk about priority usage.
Right, not priority usage,
Okay.
not who's doing it, just what they would be charged.
Is there any plan for priority usage?
None.
Alan, do you want to respond to that? Because first of all, historical relationships are recognized in the...
Correct, and then what has been the past practice is first come, first serve, and that is what is written in the administrative procedures before you tonight, would be first come, first serve. So let's use the tennis courts as an example. College Park has some schedule now. There are open courts and open times. If the Park District wanted those and approached us first, we would schedule those. If your club approached us and wanted to use those courts and you approached us first, we would schedule those. And then once in, if you comply with the provisions, and that you would have the right to renew that for a 3-year period going forward. That's what's written in here now and what the recommendation is.
But if we had 2 or 3 potential customers or tenants for a period of time, we would have the discretion of dividing up the time.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have to give...
Well, of course, we have control over the courts.
We have control of the courts. And this is not bidding, this is simply leasing time,
Right.
which is different.
The other question I have along those lines, we were trying to hold at least 1 or 2 of those courts for occasional use by community residents who wanted to play tennis on them. I assume we have the discretion to choose not to rent those of our facilities that we prefer to keep open.
That would apply to tennis courts, soccer fields, auditorium, anything.
Correct.
Well, the only question I would have then is obviously whoever had the access to their properties first could keep those indefinitely since they were there first. How does one have access to it until somebody gives up that right?
Alan?
Well, again, in the committee...
We're going to play kind of...
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nick. I don't mean to keep standing in front of you. And I looked to Nikki and Todd to correct me if you had a different interpretation, but one of the things that we looked at in the committee was the fact that we have some long-standing relationships with organizations and groups that are out there. One of the committee members talked about, for example, AYSO. And if they're worried every year about whether or not they can get the fields next year and the amount of time it would take them to find things, that doesn't build a strong relationship. So in recognizing that we do have relationships and long-standing relationships, that provision is in there. Periodically, we would be going to market and checking in response to the bidding of the tennis courts. There are a lot of facility charges here, and we don't bid those all out. We approached it differently, which was to benchmark against other districts. As Jennifer said, they're not structured the same, but most of them have some type of in-kind service arrangement. And when we valued what we were getting versus what we see other districts getting, we thought we were faring pretty well in that. And so that's why we converted it to what do we think that is annually, and then how do we maintain that going forward.
Well, as Sharon pointed out, we do have the discretion to split up use too.
And that was the only concern I had, again, since I've been running the rec department programs and we went through this.
Closer to the microphone, Dan.
Since I've been running the rec center programs, we mentioned in the last meeting that our program is tapped. We don't have enough room at Deer Path to expand it any further.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm just asking, does the city, the residents of the city then have some kind of priority to have some access to the city, the school courts over?
I'd like to go back to the fact that our primary use of the facilities is for our own students. We don't have a corner on the market and tennis courts in the town, and I know that there does seem to be a perception of a shortage of courts right now, but there may be other ways of addressing that. The city or the rec department maybe you are working with them to improve or increase the number of courts that are available. We have what we have for school use, and then when that's not necessary, then it's for, for other uses, but it's, that's certainly not the only way for you to address your need for tennis courts. Perhaps you are working with the city already on this too.
We have been.
Board members, I'm meeting with the city rec department on Tuesday, October 21st. I'm meeting with the city manager and his staff on Wednesday, October 22nd. There's some meetings coming up, all having to do with looking at the relationship of, between all of our organizations over the use of our respective properties. In addition to that, we've recently had a meeting between the mayor of Lake Forest, the board president of District 115, the board president of District 67, the city manager, and myself to talk about sort of an umbrella approach to look at coordination and cooperation across the program. So I think really we've got a really healthy process going on, taking a really global look. Obviously can dive into any one activity area as we go over time, but we're looking at trying to strengthen the partnership between certainly those three organizations over the use of properties. And I also have another meeting set aside, set up actually at the request of the rec center at Lake Bluff, and that'll be in about a week also. So I think these conversations are really being had right now, Dan.
That's, I just wanted to, in relation to the vote, just, a little clarity on
Yeah.
priority and usage, that's all.
Right.